One thing I do want to talk about, though, let's get into some news. Let's get into some news and just what's happening in the world. So the first thing I want to talk about is the DC universe. So, as most of you are probably aware, Marvel has kind of been crushing the cinematic universe of superheroes over the past 5 to 10 years. They ever since they started doing the whole Avengers saga, they have just been all the rage in superhero comic movies and TV shows. Actually, a lot of their series have done really well. Stuff like Loki, the Miss Marvel show did well. Um, what else do they have? She-Hulk. A lot of really good content out there. And DC has kind of just been floundering. But today, James Gunn put out a video talking about DC Studios and their upcoming plans. Let's see what DC Universe is going to be bringing us.
Hey everybody, I'm James Gunn. I'm the co-CEO of DC Studios. So as many of you know, DC has been disconnected in film and television for a long time. It's one of, our job.
That's actually such a huge problem, right? They have the DC TV shows like Flash and Arrow, and then they've had their movies, but they've been completely separate, right? Like Ezra Miller played the Flash in the Justice League movie, but in the TV show, Grant Gustin was Barry Allen.
Mine and Peter's, is to come in and make sure the DCU is connected in film, television, gaming.
Yeah, because
and
Marvel's
animation.
been doing
That the characters are consistent, played by the same actors,
Smart.
and it works within one story. First, we have Shazam, Fury of the Gods.
Cool.
Shazam has always been off kind of in his own part of the DCU, so he connects
That's why it's been
very
good.
well. That moves directly into The Flash,
Okay.
a fantastic movie that
Ooh.
I really love, that resets the entire DC universe. And to
Ooh.
move into Blue Beetle, a fantastic
God, that's three
film
things?
about a kid who's a marvelous part of the DCU, and then into Aquaman 2.
But that's crazy. I mean, he's addressing four things, saying that the Flash movie is going to reset the whole DC universe. They're going to bring Shazam more intertwined, which is good. Honestly, I watched Shazam on an airplane. I don't even remember. It was one of the times I think I was visiting Denver before I moved out here, and it was I really liked it. You know, maybe it's not a spectacular film, but purely from an enjoyment basis, I really enjoyed watching it. So
Peter and
I think
I,
that's
along
exciting.
with a group of very talented writers,
So this is gonna be
have
new
started
stuff,
to
I think.
map out an 8
So he's talking about mapping it out. I think this is all going to be new content. So new movies, new TV shows that have not been announced yet. I guess this is their announcement.
to 10-year plan of what DC
Whoa.
Studios will be in film,
10
television,
years?
and gaming. This first
They keep mentioning gaming. They are like really, really throwing down with the gaming. They must feel the pressure of like the Spider-Man show game doing well, and maybe seeing an opening where Avengers flopped.
chapter is called Gods and Monsters. Now, this,
Ooh.
what I'm about to tell you, is a part of the first chapter. It's not the entire first chapter. The first project is Creature Commandos.
Damn, we already got
Creature
concept art.
Commandos is an animated series.
Holy
I've
shit.
written all the episodes. Something we're going to do that's a little bit different at DC is we're going to have characters move into animation, out of animation, usually having the same actor play their voice
Oh,
as
cool.
who plays them in live action.
Oh, cool.
The next
I like
project
that.
up is Waller. This is a story of Amanda Waller, played by Viola Davis. Next up is the big one, the true beginning of the DCU.
All right.
This is called Superman Legacy. This is being written by me. I'm in the middle of it. I'm having a great time doing it.
I'm glad he's writing
and
it.
Superman will be released
That'll
in
probably
the
actually be
theaters
good.
July 11th, 2025.
Wow.
Okay, the next thing is
They already
big
have a
premiere
date? They literally already have a date for it. That's crazy. So that's very exciting.
television series called Lanterns.
TV?
This is a story of a couple of Green Lanterns, Jon Stewart and
Ooh.
Hal Jordan, and we have a
Oh,
few other
cool.
Lanterns peppered in there. But this is really a
Oh, that's so sick.
terrestrial-based TV show, which is almost like True Detective with a couple of Green Lanterns who are
Oh.
space cops watching over precinct.
That's
Earth.
cool.
In it, they discover
That's
a
cool. That's
terrifying
cool. That's
mystery
cool.
that ties into our larger story of the DCU.
That's interesting.
Paradise Lost. Paradise Lost
Jesus
is the story of
Christ.
Paradise Island, usually known as Themis
How many things are they announcing? This is crazy.
Era, which is the birthplace of Wonder Woman. It's almost like Game
Oh.
of Thrones with Westeros, but with all of the inhabitants
Wow.
of Paradise Island.
The- he is throwing out some big, big, big names that they are comparing to. It is really nuts. Like, I mean, it's smart, right? They know how to generate buzz by throwing out like, oh, this is like Game of Thrones. It is a
Introduction of the
smart thing to say,
DCU's
right?
Batman. So this is the
That's kind of
story
sick.
of the two of them
That's kind
and
of
the
cool.
beginning of sort of the Bat family in the DCU. Next up is a TV
Ooh.
series called Booster Gold. Booster Gold is one of comics' really
Booster
popular
Gold.
cult heroes. He is a fascinating guy. He's a loser from the future.
I've
who
never heard of
uses
so many of
future
these superheroes.
technology to
Like,
come back to
so many
present
of them.
day and become a superhero so that people will love him. It is basically the
That's
superhero
funny.
story
That's kind
of
of funny.
imposter syndrome on an HBO Max series. One of my
That's actually
favorite
pretty
comic book
funny.
series from last year was Tom King's run on Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. And so we're going to turn that into a big science fiction epic film.
Oh, more
Now,
Supergirl.
Superman is
Oh,
a
I
guy who was
wonder.
sent to Earth.
Oh, so here's the question, right? So Supergirl was a long-running TV series. Like, I don't know how many seasons it had, 7 or 8 seasons, maybe more. Are they gonna get Melissa Benoist, who played Supergirl, or are they gonna recast it? That feels like something that they probably should not recast, simply because she is like the only person to have played the role.
And that brings me to
Ooh,
Swamp Thing, the last thing we're going to talk about. A very dark horror story in the
damn.
origins of the monster.
They have
who
announced
is
so
Swamp
much.
Thing. And although it's totally outside of the rest of the DCU, it will still feed into the rest of the stories.
Okay.
Anyway, those are the stories that I
Interesting.
can tell you about right now.
Cool. Wow. Actually, kind of wild. I think a lot of that is really exciting. I think it's cool that they just did like a talking head thing, right? They didn't have a bunch of background music. They didn't have a bunch of like special stuff to make it look like exciting. They were just like, no, the news is good, and we're gonna talk about the news. That's that. So yes, this is the first part of chapter 1 called Gods and Monsters. The Superman one is gonna be the biggest thing, right? Superman Legacy. Yeah, and then there's gonna be the Batman Robin movie, Wonder Woman prequel series. I'm excited about the Green Lantern mystery series. When he said it was gonna be like True Detective, but Green Lantern, I think that is really exciting. My cousin and I watched a good chunk of True Detective, and it is really good. I think that James Gunn leading the charge is a good sign. They did not announce any directors, and they didn't announce any actors other than Viola Davis. It says they left the door open for Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa, Ezra Miller, and Zachary Levi to continue playing their respective superheroes. They didn't necessarily say that that's happening. They just left the door open. And then they reiterated that Henry Cavill will not continue as Superman. So that's very sad. Yeah, so let's review. So Superman Legacy is the first movie that they talked about. And this is going to open July 11, 2025. That one's crazy that they actually have a date for it. And oh, cool. Here's like a little write-up of it. It focuses on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. He is the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way. He is kindness in a world that thinks of kindness as old-fashioned. James Gunn is writing it, which is very exciting. And hopefully he can be persuaded to direct it. I think he will. Hopefully he will. Yeah, obviously rebooting Superman was the top priority. Superman is like the largest superhero in the world. So I feel like you need to reboot that in a good way, because the Avengers and stuff have risen to popularity. Like Iron Man is probably one of the more popular superheroes in the world now, but Superman is still like, the second a good Superman movie comes out, even people that aren't superhero film fans will know Superman. There are still probably a handful of people that don't know Iron Man. They know the Avengers, but Superman is still probably like the #1 most popular individual superhero. So rebooting Superman and making it be good is a huge deal. So I think James Gunn writing it, potentially directing it, is probably the best thing they could do. The next movie is The Authority. So this is going to lead directly from Superman Legacy, and this is an ensemble movie. Basically, they want to save the world, but by whatever means necessary. So it's very like anti-hero-esque, imperfect. Probably going to feel very human. Next is The Brave and the Bold, which is going to be the DCU Batman and Robin. And this will exist separately from Robert Pattinson's The Batman. So I'm guessing that Robert Pattinson will not be playing this Batman. They didn't like announce any of the actors, but that is just my guess. And then it's going to be a Damian Wayne Robin. And James Gunn said he's our favorite Robin, a little son of a bitch, an assassin, and a murderer. So this could be another like darker version of Batman, potentially like a Dark Knight type look, which would be really good. Then we have Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. This one was the one I said would be interesting if Melissa Benoist comes back to play Supergirl, to play Kara, or if they hire someone new. I wouldn't be shocked if they cast somebody new, especially where like this is what, like the 5th movie in this or 4th movie in this run. And even Superman's not going to come out till 2025. So in theory, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow isn't going to come out till like 2030. Or I could see her not wanting to return for that. But they did say that this is based on a comic run from the past 2 years, and it's a very different type of Supergirl. The last movie that they announced is Swamp Thing. So this is going to be investigating the dark origins of Swamp Thing through the prism of horror. So a DCU horror movie, which could be interesting. Gunn referenced the initial reactions to the Guardians of the Galaxy joining the MCU and the initial questions about how Rocket Raccoon would work standing next to Thor. That mashup quality wound up being one of the highlights of the Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. So this is them trying to one-up that approach with Swamp Thing, which I don't love that they are like directly comparing it, because now that is what people are going to do. So Swamp Thing now has to be super good, because if it's not, it's going to fall very flat because they just compared it to Guardians of the Galaxy and Rocket Raccoon. And Guardians of the Galaxy is like one of the most loved franchises within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So those are all the movies that got announced. Then we're going to talk about TV shows. So the first one they talked about was Creature Commandos, which is an animated series for HBO Max. And the show is already in production, featuring Frankenstein's monster teaming up with a werewolf, a vampire, and a gorgon to fight Nazis in World War II. It doesn't appear that Gunn's version will take the same approach. That probably is not a bad thing. And then Weasel, one of the characters from the Suicide Squad, is one of the commandos. And then one thing that I think is cool is that they are casting the actors to voice the characters that will also play them in live action later on. I think that that's so huge. One thing that could be interesting is if Weasel, who was already in the Suicide Squad, will be cast as the voice actor and just get to retain the role. That'll be an interesting one. The next one was Waller. They talked about that a little bit because of Viola Davis. And it will be executive produced by Jeremy Carver, who created Doom Patrol, which was canceled by HBO Max. Classic DC stuff being canceled by HBO Max. And James Gunn saying it is the greatest show ever. Okay, but both these two shows are expected to come out before Superman Legacy. So within the next 2.5 years, we could be seeing Creature Commandos and Waller all before Superman Legacy comes out, which is probably smart. You can't announce this stuff and then wait 2.5 years. All the excitement will die. And then Lanterns, which I am probably the most excited for out of all of these. And this will be a huge HBO quality event. I bet all of these shows are going to be on HBO Max. It's going to be very much in the vein of True Detective, focusing on the two best known members of the Green Lantern, Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. Next announcement for a TV show was Paradise Lost. This Game of Thrones story. This was one I thought was crazy, right? To make a Game of Thrones comparison and a True Detective comparison back to back. Kind of wild. Paradise Lost, Game of Thrones story is going to be set on the island of Themyscira before the birth of Diana, Wonder Woman. So it's going to be like a prequel to Wonder Woman, which is pretty cool. Going to be about the political intrigue behind a society of all women. I think that this will be really, really cool, and I hope that they just don't fuck it up because it's a bunch of white men writing a story about women. Final one was Booster Gold. It sounds like he is a kind of a loser who becomes a superhero. I think that this could be an interesting thing. I mean, the DC universe stepping up to battle Marvel a little bit, I think is a good thing. Marvel kind of has a monopoly on superhero entertainment. And I think it's good that there's going to be a little bit of a challenge to that.